Hey everyone, Dr. Leah here. Welcome back for another episode of Vet It Out. We have a returning guest today, Dr. Charlotte.
You just burped in your face.
Dr. Charlotte Grasson's here today, as are my dogs who just burped in our faces. Studio dogs, what can you do? Last time Dr. Charlotte Grasson was here, we talked about dogs and what you should do in preparation for getting your first dog and how to manage them, some basics. So now, today, it's all about cats, our feline friends. So welcome back, Dr. Charlotte.
Thank you for having me.
Now,
It's nice to see you again.
It's great to see you too.
I have a friend over here.
I know. The dogs are so distracting. As a small animal veterinarian, you are currently catless, but very, very familiar with the felines.
Yes, I am. And dogs are my favorite. I have to admit, dogs are my favorite.
Okay, no judgment.
Yeah. I've had two of my own cats who I've loved that were cats that came in through the hospital that were strays that I took home. I just lost one over the summer, but lived to be
Chirps.
like 15. Yeah, he
Yep.
he did amazing. Grew up with a lot of cats that ran amok. So, yeah, cats.
Yeah.
A little bit different than dogs.
Yes. And you actually just had a whole thing with trying to help out with a
I
feral
did.
cat. And
I did.
ran into some common issues that
Yes.
people often experience when they're bringing a
Yes.
cat into their lives.
Yeah, so the tough part with this was I took in a cat that I was going to take from the hospital, came in through animal control and through a rescue, was found in Torrington. Everyone thought it was a girl. Multiple people feeding the cat, kind of like a neighborhood cat, right? So a really nice person took the cat in, and because it was during that really bad cold
snap.
yeah. And, animal control does not take in cats that aren't injured. That's not necessarily their job if they're doing well. There's just too many, and that's just not possible.
Yeah, there'd
with-
have to be way too many
Yeah,
calls.
that's not
if it was
possible.
everybody reported every cat they
So
saw.
a nice rescue took this cat in for the night, brought him to me, thought it was a girl, turned out to be an intact male, meaning a male that was not neutered. He was also missing a testicle.
One
So,
nutter.
yeah, the question was, is that testicle hiding somewhere, or was he not born with it? Did it get removed, etc.? So who knows? Anyhow, if you guys don't know or have never experienced this before, as you know, the smell of intact male kitty pee is
It's
pretty
horrific.
disgusting.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
how people live or cohabitate with an intact Tom.
Well, it's so volatile too that it's one of those smells that gets in your clothes.
Yeah, and you
so-
can't wash it out. It's
No.
like it's like a permanent thing.
Yeah. So he, just being at the vet, you walk in the veterinary hospital and he's there with his litter box, and you could smell it as soon as you walk in, right?
Yeah.
So got him neutered. It takes a couple weeks for that scent to go away.
Because they lose their testosterone.
Yeah. Hi, Willow. Yeah.
That's Rain being
Oh,
obnoxious.
Rain's
I
over
got the
here.
calm
Oh,
one on
they
my
switched.
side.
They switched. Yes. So if you see my arm going up, it's because I have a dog. They switched. Anyhow, after I lost my cat, I was looking for another cat that came into the hospital, preferably an indoor-outdoor cat. And I said, I'm gonna try to take this cat in. I think the universe has given me this cat. So took the cat home to try it out, and Jonesy, my significant other, said, you get one try. If he beats up the dogs, if he pees, that's it. We can't keep him here. Understandable. Having a significant other when you're a veterinarian, you often end up with a lot of animals you have to ask permission for.
Yeah, you kind of
So-
sign up for it. If you
Yeah.
want to date or
Yeah.
marry a veterinarian, like this
You'll
is
be
part of the
helping
deal.
strays and bringing home animals, and
Yeah.
have things in your bathroom. It's just what happens. So I bring the cat home, give him a huge litter box, set up this area, right? And I kept him upstairs. He had access to a bathroom and a spare bedroom, but not the rest of the house. So I literally wake up with my eyes watering to the smell of this cat's urine. It was that bad. So I wake up, Jonesy's already awake, and he's like, this is not good. And I'm like, oh, the smell will go away, trying to sweet talk them. So I go and look in the litter box, and I'm like, there's very little urine in the litter box, but this
Uh-oh.
smell is terrible. So, as we animal lovers do, down on my hands and knees, smelling, looking for where the urine is. And of course, he peed on the bath mat. He peed on the spare room bed, which had 2 comforters on it, sheets, and a mattress pad all the way down to the mattress. And I said, oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, he likes to be outside. I'll make him an indoor-outdoor cat, but he could mainly stay outside, and in the winter have a heated cat hut. And lo and behold, we found somebody that had been feeding this cat and missing them. So
Oh,
after he's all finished and vetted up, he's going to go back there.
good.
And
Good for Jonesy.
Yeah, yeah. And on that note, that's a good way to start discussing, feral cats or stray cats, or
The cat distribution system.
yeah, or cats that spend a lot of time outside.
Mhm.
So as you know, cats are very self-sufficient. They've
Yeah.
been here longer than us. They do their thing. They can have great lives outside. They have their own paths and places they take.
get
They know where to
territory.
get food. Yeah, they get their own territory. And some cats you cannot keep inside, and
No.
that's okay.
And they'll make your life miserable if you try.
Their quality of life is much better outside. And I'm not talking about getting a cat that's just an indoor house cat and something happens and you kick it outside. They're not
Don't
used to
ever do that.
yeah, they're not used to it. But this cat, he knows his outdoor stuff. So
Yeah.
he'll be going back there. But yeah, so
Good. So you helped him out. There is a place for him to go that's
Yeah.
not in your house. So that's fantastic.
Mhm.
And so whenever somebody's considering getting a cat and you haven't had one before, it's a little bit more complex than I think most people consider it to be. Like I said, cat distribution system. All of
Yeah.
a sudden, especially during the pandemic, people were bringing animals in.
yeah.
And the first question always is indoor, outdoor, or both. And how I usually approach this with people is I say, if you can keep your cat indoors, do that. Don't give them an opportunity to go outside. Don't introduce it to them and then expect them to be like, no, I don't want anything to do with this
Yeah.
awesome, stimulating environment. Make sure that you try to keep them in. But if they do start trying to escape, inappropriately urinating, and making your life in general kind of miserable indoors, then maybe their quality of life would be better. But the counter to that, a lot of people are concerned about small birds and mammals because they're pretty good little hunters.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Chirp's murdered a lot of things outside.
Yeah.
He had a good time doing it, but yeah.
But yes, there's legitimate concerns about the decimation of wildlife because of indoor, outdoor, or strictly outdoor cats. And then feral colonies are also a big concern in that regard. But I love when people started getting a little bit more crazy about the exotic edge in some of these breeds.
Yeah.
You think of things like Bengals, and then people who are getting Savannah cats.
Oh,
These animals.
that's a whole other story.
Yeah, there are some cats that just you can't possibly provide enough environmental enrichment or mental stimulation inside your household for them to be content. They're busy. They travel a lot. They're
hunters.
Use their senses exactly. And we've gotten pretty lazy and sedentary. And
Yeah.
the same problem we have with dogs, which is lack of exercise, lack of stimulation, same problem we seem to be having with our children in this country. It results in behavioral issues when there's no outlet for energy, if there's boredom. And it can result in some behavioral problems. And so
And those can be very destructive behavioral
Yeah,
problems.
yeah.
Very destructive.
Yeah.
I mean, that leads us on to some other topics too. So, talking about indoor outdoor cat, I think one thing you really have to consider is where you live.
yes.
If you're on a main road, no, you're not going to get an indoor outdoor cat. That's that's not being very responsible.
Yeah, especially if you have a kitten, somebody who has not experienced indoor or outdoor.
Yeah.
It's different when there's rescue organizations that go and they collect feral or outdoor stray cats.
Cats can do fine if they have their environment. You trap them, you spay and neuter them, you release them.
Yeah.
They can do absolutely fine, and that's okay.
They
Actually,
have street cred.
yeah,
They're
and
used to being out there. They
taking
know
one
how
of
to
those
protect
cats and
themselves.
making them be indoor, not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
I had some success. I adopted an older cat once. His name was Percy. And there was I had just lost my soul cat, really sweet thing, at a young age. She was only 6 and died of breast cancer. Yes, cats get breast cancer. They get pretty much everything that we do. And at the time, my partner and I were ready to get a cat, and she didn't like him very much. She was really probably abused by a man. And so he said, "Can we get a cat that likes me?" And I was like, sure. So we go to this rescue organization that I had spent some time doing vet work for, and we went in the friendly cat room. And we're like, we'll see who comes up to you. He really wanted a cat he can pick up. And this big old chunky gray short-haired cat comes marching over, and he says hello and immediately picks him up. The cat's chill, and he's like, "Oh, this is pretty cool. I like this one." I'm like, "Just got in here. There's like 10 cats in here. Like, let's keep looking, see if you bond with anybody else." And there was one cat in the back room by itself, and we walked back there, and we're like trying to say hi to her, and Percy follows us back there and climbs in the litter box and just makes direct eye contact and then blows it up. I mean, he is just ripping farts and direct eye contact the whole time. And I was like, "That's our cat."
Yep.
So
they know how to pick their homes.
We were laughing so hard we can barely get him picked up and get all the paperwork done. So he came home at the same time. I got a little Hayloft special kitten because, rescue organizations, I was the vet who was tasked with the unfortunate job of trying to determine their approximate age when you
which
get
is
a stray. Very
it's
difficult.
yeah.
Either they're really, really little and it's obvious and they're growing, or there's this nebulous 5 to 7 year window, and then they're old. And so
it's hard. And that's, as a veterinarian examining cats that they don't know the age, sometimes you really don't know until they age quickly, or you start seeing changes and you're like, "Oh, they're a bit older than we thought."
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And oftentimes I think a lot of stray animals who have been doing well outside, when they start not feeling well and they're getting tired of hunting, they're getting beat up by somebody else, that's when they sometimes will start moving in towards civilization and then allow themselves to be captured, allow themselves to end up in a house or a rescue. So, this cat, they had listed him as 5 to 6, and I got him home, and he had the old man toenails that were clicking on the floor.
Oh, you're like, he's 13.
And his fangs had big grooves in them, and he had some gingival recession, which is when the teeth look longer because the gum line is receding. And I was like, and I hadn't bothered to examine him at the rescue. I didn't care how old he was.
He
I got him
picked
home,
you.
and I was like, yeah, he picked us. And he had an awesome 4 years, and he tried to get outside one time. And it was a beautiful,
he knew he was
gorgeous,
living the dream.
sunny day. And it was like, I wanted to be outside and I wasn't paying attention. The door was open just long enough. And then I turn and look, and he's standing out in the yard. And we both had like an oh shit moment looking at each other. And I was like, and I lunged at him, grabbed him and tackled him to the ground. He was like, "Oh my God," and got him inside. That was the one time he tried. Otherwise, he was planted on a king size bed and getting fed around the clock. He had it made. But yeah, this is a thing. So if you're going to get a cat, acting like they just are going to be a piece of furniture in your house and you don't need to worry about them, you just fill a bowl of food and a bowl of water and call it good, you are very much mistaken. These are social animals.
And they're very, very smart. And, discussing entertainment and things, like an outdoor cat, they hunt, they're carnivores, they eat mice and whatever, that's normal for them. And there are a lot of options these days if you have an outdoor cat, as far as, getting your cat microchipped. And I think all you guys know what a microchip is. Little kind of grain of rice goes in between the shoulder blades. If somebody finds your cat, scan it. Yep. And then you register that chip to your name, which, I see a lot of cats from animal control that are injured, and we scan them and there's no owner. And if they need a lot of care, they're going to get euthanized. They can't suffer, and it stinks if we can't contact an owner. Also, they make GPS trackers that my cat had, are pretty awesome. So that can tell you where your cat is. And that way, if something happens and they're in the woods or whatever, you could go and find them. And there's ways to make that work.
So we've established that if you're going to be bringing a cat into your household, you need to determine, is it going to be indoor only? Is it going to be an indoor-outdoor cat? Or are you in a situation where you've got a farm and you're looking specifically to have an outdoor-only cat? And I do have some clients with cat allergies, and they do get mousers for their facilities. But if you are going to have an outdoor cat, it's more complicated than you just need a litter box and a bowl of food and a bowl of water. These animals need stimulation, and if they don't get it, they're going to make it up.
And trash your house.
Exactly. If you like your couch, your rugs, your door jambs, stuff not being peed on, then you need to actually put a little bit of work into this. It's not just, oh, now I have a cat.
It's very normal for cats to scratch and stretch.
They need to.
Yeah,
that's part of their innate things that they do.
Which means you have to have a lot of different scratching areas, you know. And some cats prefer wood. Some cats will like your rugs. Some cats like horizontal things. Some cats like vertical things. And you have to provide that and figure out what is what.
Yes.
And you need to understand that with cats, you may not have perfect furniture, or you have to cover it. Because you wouldn't want to dare consider declawing your cat.
Yeah.
Which we can talk about.
No, don't do it. Not allowed.
Yeah. So it's illegal in a lot of places. I wish it was illegal in
Everywhere.
Connecticut. Yeah. And I think what a lot of the general public thinks is that you just kind of take the nail out and it's not a big deal. So what happens when you declaw a cat, if it's our fingers here, you cut off the last digit. You literally amputate that last digit.
The first knuckle.
Yeah. So, and that affects weight bearing too, you know, where the cats are walking. And I think many more people are realizing how inhumane that is. In other countries, it's illegal, and it's just not here.
Yes. And one thing that's really unfortunate, and I think it's always important, I mean, we make mistakes and we learn from them. Declawing is something that we unfortunately kind of drove as a veterinary community back in the day, because people were getting house cats. They were very concerned about the appearances of their furniture. We're like, oh, let's cut the ends of their fingers off. And it became almost commonplace. You got a cat, it got spayed and neutered, and it got declawed. But what we didn't realize, and it was, you know, decades later.
Learning from experience,
When I got trained in chiropractic school or veterinary spinal manipulation techniques, my professor, I thought this was really cool. He saw, it wasn't just him, but he acknowledged this study that was finding that a lot of declawed cats were ending up in shelters.
Yeah.
And they were ending up in shelters because they were becoming aggressive and biting people.
Yeah.
Because scratching is their number one form of defense.
And people will tell you that that's not, there's a whole group of people that say, with studies that say, no, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I feel being
you don't know what you're talking about.
I feel being a small animal veterinarian, if you have a cat that's going to go a bit crazy and want to bite, you're like, oh, yeah, it's declawed. So,
yeah. The first thing I think of is pain. If you've got an animal that had their fingertips amputated and they're biting.
Yeah.
Also, what was really cool at my chiropractic school is he went to some of these shelters and worked with these aggressive cats, trying to get to the bottom of what was going on. He x-rayed a bunch of declawed cats' paws.
Did they have remnants?
They had remnants, which means they didn't get...
I will tell a story about that.
Yeah, which means they didn't get the entire nail bed. It was a botched declaw. And so the fingernail was growing inside the pad, a needle of a fingernail. So every time they put pressure on that pad, the nail was stabbing them.
And I had that exact case. So a cat that was a pretty aggressive cat at the vet, he didn't like being handled. He was older and he had been declawed. And typically if you're going to do a declaw, what you do is you take a scalpel blade and cut out that center that produces the nail. Now, there was a technique that people did. It was acceptable at one point. I don't even know why, where they literally would just cut it off with a nail clipper. Like just a nail big animal
used for a dog.
Yeah, and when you didn't get that, what's called that ungul crest, or I think that's what it's called. If you don't get that, the nail grows back and the skin heals over it. So I have this cat named Dexter. This was years ago, and his paws were so sore, so we sedated him. Multiple toes I had to essentially re-declaw because they were growing, like you said, they were infected.
Needles
and
inside
I
the
didn't
pad.
I didn't want to have to do this, but it was, you have to go in and take the rest of that out.
Yeah, they're suffering.
Now, that owner is a wonderful pet owner. She had no idea what a declaw was about. So I feel like back in the day when we started doing declaws, I've never declawed. I refuse. I would never do it.
Career.
And if people ask me about it, it's a big conversation that we have. But this client had no idea she felt so terrible. She wasn't explained that this could be really bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
there are some colleagues who are still doing declaws, and the argument that I've heard for it was that these families were going to dump or abandon or throw their indoor only cats outside, which you're a bad person if you're going to be doing
then you
stuff
probably
like
shouldn't
that.
get a cat.
You should never have gotten one in the first place. And we are trying to retrain some of these older generations who still are like, oh, well, you got a cat, got spayed and neutered and declawed, and this is what we do. We shouldn't be doing this anymore. We have learned, unfortunately, that not only those pinpoint nails growing inside the pad a problem,
behavior problems,
and also neuromas. So a neuroma is kind of like a tumor on a nerve because it was blunted. It was just cut, and so you get this really painful nerve in these toes. Again, these pressure points, as well as severe osteoarthritis. I recently, because I'm a hospice veterinarian, anytime I perform a euthanasia, I make a clay paw print and some ink prints for people.
Oh,
and I was trying to do a paw print on this geriatric declaw cat.
They're all stuck together.
Her toes were mangled. I mean,
and she's walking on those.
So painful. And again, amazing pet parent, like beautiful family. They adopted these cats and had no idea. And when I tried so hard to make a pretty paw print, and all 4 toes were just a straight line. I could not release her little fingers, what was left of them, to make a decent looking paw print. And it broke my heart. And it was the sweetest cat. And again, sweet client. Unintended consequences.
Well, I think that people were just told, oh, yeah, we'll just declaw. And I think a lot of times those consequences weren't known.
Oh,
but
now we do know.
On.
And we're trying to go back and be like, oh, this isn't allowed anymore. Please don't do this. So if you're going to get a cat and you think that declawing is something that you need to do, please don't get a cat. Or what you do is you go to a shelter and adopt one that unfortunately was already done. Be prepared for it to maybe have behavioral issues and possibly bite you.
That's tough. And if you have a cat that is scratching, there are so many things that we can do now to help that. There is reversible tape that you could put on couches. You can throw you could throw a blanket on there. And one thing that's really awesome that doesn't hurt cats that I used to use on my cat is something called soft paws. Yeah, and they're like little nail tips that you glue onto their claws so they can use their claws and do everything they want, but it's soft. And he would go at the furniture and nothing would happen. And those are pretty easy to put on at home. So there's really no reason to declaw.
Correct. And, on that note, when you do get a cat or especially a kitten, somebody that is young and we can train them and desensitize them,
Cut
you
their
have
nails.
to handle them. Exactly. Play with their paws. Work on cutting their nails. And remember, when you are doing a nail trim, you can always take more off, but you can't put it back. And so a lot of these cats, there's no reason that people should be aggressively cutting nails. I mean, you just need to take off the little tiny pointy tip. Make sure there's no pink inside.
And those
of
are pretty easy to see. You just you squish
usually a
the
good
nail.
curve.
Yeah, you'll see the hook. They're typically clear.
Yeah.
So
It should be a 2-person job. You shouldn't be trying to work with a
Start
new cat or
young.
kitten. One person should be helping hold, feeding a treat. Churro treats are like cat crack. They're these little like tubes of smushy paste. And if there's some sort of positive reinforcement, you take your time, you're being calm, and you're being gentle. Make sure these animals get used to being handled. They don't have to love it, but you also don't want to only be handling them and doing this and then it's stressful.
Or when they go to the vet and they're not used to it and people wonder why they're freaking out. So definitely desensitizing your cat to things. And on that note, when we were talking about handling, and some of them aren't used to being handled. Now there are so many good anti-anxiety medicines for people to use before their cat goes to the vet.
Yes.
We use gabapentin a lot because cats can get really scared.
Anxious.
And if a cat bites, a cat bite will put you in the hospital. And especially older people with thinner skin, they can become septic and die from a cat bite.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. So you don't want to get bit by a cat. And, I bring this up because if your cat seems really anxious, hard to get in the carrier, and you can get meds into your cat, then ask your vet to prescribe something. I mean, there's
low stress handling techniques.
It's very similar to if we're really nervous to go to the dentist and we get a little something before, nothing that's dangerous. So we've come a long way in that way. And I think that cats, they deserve to be treated with respect and
absolutely
can be medicated so they're not having such a hard time.
Yeah. Yeah, and so unfortunately, cats, in my experience, are kind of treated like second-class citizens in comparison to our canine companions. A lot of that, I'm seeing as a hospice veterinarian, cats who got spayed and neutered in their initial rabies vaccine
Oh
and
yeah.
never went to a veterinarian
Yes, I
again.
had that today. Yeah.
Yep,
And people will say, "Oh, my cat doesn't go outside. We don't need to do this." So rabies vaccine in Connecticut, state law, after
it
12
is
weeks,
mandated.
you have to do that. And the reason why is there is no cure for rabies.
Correct.
Get rabies and you're going to die. And one of the things that carries rabies around here are bats and skunks. If you have a bat come through the chimney, if your cat escapes and gets bit and is not vaccinated, that's a huge problem.
Yeah, and it could kill you because you might not even know, and then you're exposed to it. And people who are involved in cat rescue or Good Samaritans, I've had many, many people try to rescue a kitten or somebody who was in a feral
Thing
colony.
goes crazy and climbs
And
up
then
your
they
arm.
got bit or scratched. Scratching. I mean, if a cat is licking its paws and then scratches you and breaks skin and you're bleeding, that is a potential rabies transmission. It doesn't have to be a bite. Broken skin with potential saliva contact, period. Cats are always licking their paws. They're neat. They're fastidious. So very important to think about that and make sure that the other thing is people are like, oh, they're fine. Cats are the best poker players in the animal kingdom.
They're fine, and then all of a sudden they're trying to
They're
die.
actively dying.
Yeah.
And that is because they are good little hunters, like we talked about. They will murder a lot of small mammals and birds if they're allowed to
They're
go
not
outside.
going to show that they're sick till it gets a little bit too late.
Till it's an emergency.
Yeah.
And then because of their petite and they are nocturnal, meaning they hunt and are most active at night, they are preyed upon by larger predators. So they do not show their hand. They suffer so silently, and the signs of suffering are so subtle in cats that a lot of times people have no idea that something is wrong.
Yeah,
and
like
then,
they don't want to be brushed anymore.
Mhm.
They're not jumping up on the bed.
Yeah, they're not cuddling with you,
The-
or
and the
they're getting excessively cuddly.
Yeah, or the first thing you'll see typically with a cat, they'll stop grooming. A cat that's not grooming is an unhappy cat.
Something's wrong.
And, going back to a cat that only goes to the vet for the first time, it's really good to have a good relationship with your vet and to go yearly, because other things we look at are their teeth, their weight, their joints, their heart. Do they have a heart murmur? And it's really hard if your cat gets sick or something happens and we don't have that history, like has it lost weight? And there's a lot of things we can do, and at least keep up on your rabies vaccine.
How many cats have you seen that the owner swore up and down they don't have fleas?
Oh gosh.
And they're infested and they're living in your house.
They don't believe you until you actually show them.
Yeah, they're
it's
like,
flea
I
Nile.
have allergies. They have allergies. Like,
Flea
I don't know
Nile.
what's wrong, but they're scratching and they're going crazy. And then, yeah, I've literally pulled a live flea off of a cat. And like,
Yeah. And there's so many good
and they're
products
still,
out there.
the owner's
Yeah.
like, no, it's
Yeah.
not me.
And one flea can lay hundreds of eggs in their lifetime,
Yeah.
and those eggs can actually go dormant. Like you move into some place and they're on the floor cracks or
Yeah.
stuck in the rug,
Where somebody hasn't
Yeah.
lived for years.
and they could go back on the
Yeah,
cat. And
the
it
egg
takes
will
a
hatch.
and it takes a while to break that cycle. You're not going to treat them with one medicine and be fine because you got to get the eggs,
Yeah,
and
eggs
everything.
that are dropped in your
Yeah.
carpet and in your
Yeah.
bedding. Yeah, it's
And-
pretty wild.
And not everything over the counter is
Safe.
there
Or
are plenty of
effective.
stuff, but like call your vet.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. I have seen cats die from over the counter.
I've seen cats die from
cheap
flea
brands.
anemia.
Yeah. And I've also seen cats die and get very sick from cheap, non-veterinary recommended flea products.
Yeah.
Collars and topicals.
And your cat being strictly indoors can get fleas. Those are the worst flea infestations I see,
Yeah.
because people are like, no, it's not fleas.
yeah,
And
they're in denial.
what we often will look for is flea comb, and we're looking for flea poop. And flea poop is blood.
Yeah.
So you could
We call
take
it
that.
flea dirt.
Yeah, flea dirt. You could take that, put it on something white, add some water to it. And if it turns out to be red, then you got
Yeah.
fleas.
Yeah, I always say either the white sheet or the paper towel
Yep.
trick. You set your cat down and then you kind of rough up their fur
Mm-hmm.
and give them some good scratchies, especially around their hind end and around their chin and neck. And then you look for little black crumbles. They almost like little coffee grounds.
I had a cat come in, and the owner was like, I gave my cat a bath and it's bleeding from somewhere. Like the water
was
bloody.
brown and
It was
bloody.
like brown.
Yeah.
And it turned out this cat had fleas, and that was all the flea poop on it. And,
Yeah.
remember, if you get fleas, you're trying to prevent fleas, you got to treat every animal in the house.
Yeah.
It just, they'll
And
find
you have
that one
to clean
live
your
on.
house. I'm not a flea bomber fan. Because
No,
basically
those
what you
are
do
bad.
is you just explode poisons into your environment
Yeah.
that everybody's breathing.
Not good for your fish
And
and
fleas
birds.
live underneath stuff. So you just poison your whole environment, where all you really need to do is turn into the most psychotic anal retentive vacuum cleaning person ever and wash all of your bedding. If your cat goes on top of your refrigerator,
Yep.
guess what's up there?
Fleas.
Eggs. Fleas.
Flea
And then those
friends.
will hatch eventually and come down underneath your dresser. Flea eggs. Like, so you need to vacuum every spot a cat can get to, wash everything, and you do it at the same time that you treat all your animals. The only chemicals that I've ever used when I've had flea infestations, veterinarian, flea infestation, indoor only cat, thanks to the mice bringing the fleas in. What I did is I only did flea treatment on the carpets.
Yeah.
And then vacuumed them to make sure that the eggs that were wedged down into the fibers were killed. But I did not bomb my house. Do not use flea bombs. So
No,
again,
there's safe sprays and stuff
Yes,
these days. So
This
that's
is-
a good thing to know, is that, fleas really shouldn't be a problem.
No.
And there's medications that are over the counter that are like $10 a month that work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But make sure your vet's advising you on those, because as I said, they can be toxic, they can be counterfeit, and they can cause harm to your cat. So kind of on the whole second-class citizen thing with cats, there are diseases that they are known to carry out in the wild. And then if you catch a cat and you bring it in, the basic testing that every cat should have, especially if you're going to introduce it to cats that already lived in your home, you have to have what's called an FELV FIV test. That is feline leukemia and feline AIDS.
And those diseases, feline AIDS, it's not anything that people can get. It's a virus they get typically.
Like HIV,
yeah,
though, and that their immune
typically
system
from
is not
male cats that are fighting. It's spread through saliva. Typically, if you neuter a cat, they're not going to fight anymore. So you'll see a big scarred up male come in. That cat probably has AIDS. So my cat did have AIDS. He died at 15. He did not have any health problems
He had a
to
normal
that point.
lifespan.
Yeah. And he ended up with less red blood cells and less red blood cells. I think the AIDS, the virus, probably attacked his bone marrow. That was 15 years. So you can have a FIV positive cat live with your cat as long as they're fixed and they're not fighting each other. It doesn't. I have never, in all my 20 plus years of veterinary stuff, I've never seen it spread from cat to cat. Now, feline leukemia
Different story.
is a little bit of a different story. That can come from the mom. That can be latent, but typically leukemia, it just messes the bone marrow up. They become anemic. They get really sick.
They get really sick. And
They don't
releasing-
often, live as long as AIDS cats
Yes,
do.
and it is considered unethical to have a feral or colony cat with feline leukemia and then trap and release them.
Yeah.
Because that cat is very likely to spread that disease to other animals in the
And
colony.
we call that the friendly cat disease because they could do it from food bowls and
Yeah,
water bowls.
Exactly. They don't have to fight
mutual
to
grooming.
transmit it.
But on a happy note, there's a really great vaccine for feline leukemia. Unfortunately, there's not one for feline AIDS, but feline AIDS doesn't really spread that readily if you get your animal fixed. I was just reading some article, 4%. 4% of ferals. That's not a high percentage if you get them spayed and neutered, but there is a feline leukemia vaccine that works quite well.
Yeah.
So if you have a cat with feline leukemia, your other cat should be vaccinated, and that's, that helps. That works great.
And if they're going outside, this is an annual vaccine. So there is a point, there is a reason that it's effective and important to have your annual vaccines.
Yeah.
Although rabies might not be any more frequent than every 3 years, depending on what vaccine you choose. You really should be bringing your cats in for a once over every year for any sort of deworming. Also,
Weight monitoring.
Yeah, weight monitoring. We can catch things early and really affect the lifespan of an animal. I had a cat with chronic kidney disease, untreated. He maybe would have lasted a year. I got 3 years with that guy just by making some dietary modifications and paying attention and knowing what to watch for, offering additional water sources. So there's people out there who think that like vet med in and of itself is practically a scam and you don't need to bring your cats in and it's stupid and we're just looking for money. We're trying to keep them well, and then if there is something wrong, intervening in a timely fashion can absolutely extend their lifespan.
And at least if you're not a person that wants to bring your cat to the vet, at least it needs to be rabies vaccinated.
rabies
that means
vaccinated.
every 3
Yeah.
years. That's all we can require you do legally.
Yeah.
But keep up on that vaccine.
Yeah. And we kind of mentioned you don't want to have a tomcat in your house. You also don't want to have an intact cycling female because I can't tell you how many people who've gotten kittens and they call me and they're like, oh my God, something's wrong. They're really sick. They're screaming. They're going crazy. They're really, really sick. And I was like, how old are they? And they're like 6 months.
Like, yeah, they're in
And it's
heat.
a female. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, she's a little horny.
And they scream. They
scream.
They
bloody
keep
murder.
people up.
Yeah, and they're all over you. They're hyper affectionate, and they literally go nuts. And people think that they're sick and dying.
Yeah,
because they're in heat.
Yeah, and it's
hormones does some crazy stuff, doesn't it?
They'll be like, "What's wrong with my cat?" And you find out they're in heat, and
she needs to lose her uterus.
Right,
is what needs to
and
happen.
cats should be spayed before 6 months because, as you know, cats are very prone to developing mammary cancer, and in cats, it's bad. It's bad, and they're much more likely to get mammary cancer if they're not spayed at the 6 month mark.
Yeah, and they will break out of your house
and
when
get
they're
pregnant.
in heat. Exactly, like they turn into little hussies.
Yep.
When they're going through their heat cycle.
They're called induced ovulators. So if there's a male that comes around, then they ovulate. They get ready to get pregnant just because a male is around.
Yeah. Some balls in the neighborhood, and you have a cat that's trying to bust out.
Yeah, they're pretty slutty, like you. No, I'm just kidding. Don't you wish?
I know. My life is very boring.
I like making you turn red.
Okay, where were we on that one? Oh, so talking about spay, neutering, and timing. I have veterinary technicians and vet friends who have gotten a couple of kittens and then didn't make the cut in time, literally, and then they had
their brother and sisters
who bred, and then we've got these little inbred kittens running around, and so that's happening in colonies everywhere. I mean,
playing the little Deliverance song,
little banjo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you get 2 kittens, especially a male and a female,
they will mate.
Better make sure that somebody is spayed and neutered by 6 months, or you are going to have inbred kittens.
A lot.
Yeah, very quickly.
Of them.
Yeah, shit's gonna get wild in your house. Am I allowed to swear? I don't know.
I don't know. I just called you a slut, so that's fine.
Oh man. Okay, so what else about cats? So we kind of talked about how any deviation from normal behavior is a cry
cats
for
are
help.
creatures of habit. Creatures of habit. So your cat's not eating, your cat's drinking more than usual, your cat's more affectionate, your cat's not affectionate, litter box habits, all those should be checked.
Yeah, and if they're a little off or you notice a break in routine, that is usually a massive red flag, and people don't realize it. I had this one client back when I was doing general practice that had this cat named Stella, and the whole family called her Satan. She was like this little angry black feral cat that was outside. And they were like, oh, well, she'll acclimate. No. Stella never acclimated. She lived in a huge walk-in closet. She hated everybody. She only came out at night when all the humans were in bed. The dog was terrified of her. And one day, the whole family's sitting in the living room with the dog, and Stella comes out and sits down in front of them, in front of the TV, next to the dog.
And
they're all like,
she's dying.
What is going on here? And the dog was terrified.
Yeah.
And they were able to catch her and put her in the carrier and bring her in, and she was an end-stage kidney failure.
Well, they let you know.
Exactly. And so I have people that, they have an elder cat, and they're like, oh my gosh, Harry's so affectionate. He's been snuggling me lately. I'm like, oh
better
my
get him
God.
checked.
Go to the vet. And they're like, this is amazing. He never was a cuddly one.
Like, yeah, there's definitely something wrong there.
Yeah. So hiding in unusual places, if you normally do have an affectionate cat and they're distancing themselves from you, they're not on your lap and they're just next to you, that is a huge change.
For sure.
Yeah,
they hide things well.
Pay attention. And on that note, there are things on the market that can help cats that are significantly underdiagnosed with arthritis as they get older.
Yeah.
And you look at what's available for dogs on the market.
Right. And cats, their liver and kidneys are just so sensitive.
Yeah.
You give a cat an aspirin, you can kill it. Give a cat a Tylenol. Well-meaning people.
You will kill for sure with a
I
Tylenol.
have seen well-meaning people said, my cat didn't feel good. I gave it this. And cats can tolerate aspirin to a certain extent. Not something you should give.
Ever.
But
do not ever give your cat anything without a
well-meaning
vet.
client gave an entire tablet and killed the cat. And the guilt that they felt, and I'm like, please just call us. Like,
a phone call can save your life. And a phone call to a veterinarian. It drives me nuts because, again, cats are
just
treated like second-class
post on
citizens on Facebook. Exactly. And there's people who have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, making deadly recommendations for animals, fatal recommendations. And it's mind-boggling to me. If you're worried about your animal and you feel the need to get on social media and ask
you should be going to the
freaking
vet.
strangers about what's going on, that you should have been making a phone call. There are emergency clinics everywhere. There's hospitals everywhere. Since I am a hospice vet, there's a lot of people who, when they have a crisis, call me, and I'm like, I don't know why you're calling me. I'm not an ER.
Yeah.
I'm not equipped with
have to do a physical exam.
Exactly.
Let's start with that.
I was like, if they're ready to go to heaven, I'm your girl. But otherwise, like,
figure out what's up.
You need to be calling a clinic.
Yeah. See if we could fix it.
Yeah. And so another fun thing, as I've been diving more, into nutrition and just keeping up on education, especially for this podcast, and just so I'm a good vet, there are people who've tried to force their cats to be vegan.
Oh, cats are carnivores, 100%.
Obligate carnivores. Unlike dogs, who can be omnivorous, they can utilize nutrition from plant-based foods, just like we can. Cats can't.
They have to have
whatsoever.
meat.
If you try to force a cat to have a diet that is devoid of meat,
you'll kill it.
You will literally kill them.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to all those people out there who think handling cat food is gross or meat. Like, you shouldn't have a cat. Okay. So when you have cats in your household, there's kind of a general rule as far as litter boxes go. You should have a litter box per cat plus one.
Correct.
In different locations.
And they need to be 1.5 times the size from your cat's nose to the end of their tail. And if you think about commercial litter boxes, they're not that big. They're way too small. And one of the things that's really cheaper than a litter box that works amazingly, you can get them at Lowe's. It's called a cement mixing pan. Mm-hmm. They're big. They have a good lip on them. Mm-hmm. You spend $15. You go to Chewy and order some litter box like that because it's a litter box. It's going to be like $50. Yeah. Like, you don't need to do that.
No.
And cats are proven to, when they scratch, they want to go deep. So you don't just want a little bit of litter. You want them to be able to go deep. And they tend to prefer unscented clumping litter. The scenting is for us. Cats don't want lavender litter and all of that stuff.
When we worry now, look at all these exposures to things like essential oils and artificial scents, and like whether or not it's toxic. Cats are so sensitive. Like, just you don't need to have a scent in there. And then I like having a huge litter box. I'm really lucky. I have 3 cats, and I only have 1 in this house, knock on wood.
She's breaking the rules. Don't listen to her.
I'm breaking the rules because it is mega box. It is the biggest litter box ever. And
what are you? Is it an actual litter box, or what is it?
Yeah, it's a huge one that I got from Petco. I have a Maine Coon. She's very long, and so she needs to be able to fit in there. But if I don't scoop that thing twice a day,
you have to.
every day, my cats are really good at just dropping a turd next to the box as a big old, like,
what I tell people is, thinking about, like, going back to festival days or stuff like that. You go to the porta potty and the thing is overflowing. What are you going to do?
You don't want to go in
You're not going in that porta potty. You're going to, like,
go find a bush somewhere.
Or next to the porta potty or somewhere else where you could hide. Like, think about that. People will be like, oh yeah, I don't scoop it every day. Like, are you nuts? Plus, that's going to smell. It's unhygienic. You got to scoop that.
Tracking it through your whole house.
Yeah, and you need to, at least, depending on how many cats you have, weekly, maybe even more, empty that whole box, and you got to clean out the whole box.
You got to scrub it out, dump whatever litter's in there. I kind of have a system where, like, they say you should do it every week. I'm probably more of an every 2-week person.
But you're really good about keeping up what you're doing.
It's scooped every day, twice a day. Like I said, my cats will tell me and just poop on the floor. And then they look at me. They're like, "That's a you problem because you didn't scoop it."
Yeah. They're very clean animals.
They are, and I'm fortunate that I'm able to get away with this. But I find that when cats get older, what people don't realize if they stop using the litter box is, when you think about how tall a litter box lip usually is and like how tall a cat is, that's a massive step. So when they
Think about your 90-year-old relative having to go over a big step to go to the bathroom.
Correct. And although they do like deeper litter so they can dig around in it when they're younger, when they get older, have you ever tried to walk in a really sandy beach and you can't get your balance? You feel like you're going to fall over. I've had a couple of knee surgeries where I'm like, I'm going to die trying to walk down this beach. Cats are the same way, and I find that when they get older and more fragile, it's hard for them to get in the box, and then they have a hard time posturing because they're usually arthritic in litter that's too deep. So. Yeah. Sometimes you got to get a little bit creative and pay attention as they're getting older, or if they become special needs. We mentioned locations of litter boxes, especially if you have multiple cats. Cats can be absolute jerks. They will guard.
They do what they want when they want. They can protect litter boxes.
Yep, they will become territorial within your house over a litter box. So if you get a new cat or somebody's getting bullied, they might stop the newbie from getting to the box.
Yeah, and they can get very scared. I've had situations like most people will take their cat litter box and put it in their bathroom. They don't like people sense that they want to do their own thing. Or classically in the basement next to the washing machine. If you have a cat that's nervous and that cat's in the box and the washing machine cycle goes on or the dryer beeps, I've had cats I think not want to use the box because of that. They typically want to, since like we talked about earlier, they hide a lot of things because they can get preyed upon. They typically want to be able to look around and not feel cornered in a box. So having different locations can certainly help. Some cats like a different location other than some other cats, or they can be different about that.
Yeah, and in the world where everything is becoming a smart this and an electric that, now there's the electric litter boxes.
I don't like it.
That automatically clean.
They may. What is your opinion?
I mean, I guess I can't knock it until I try it, but...
So I looked at this one. This cat had to get up that far.
That was my concern, is like, we're talking about Jared. I'm an acupuncturist and a chiropractor, and I'm thinking about aging in place.
Could that possibly, and some of them do this cycle, could that possibly happen when the cat's in it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Is there a malfunction, and then all of a sudden your cat's like stuck on a really bad carnival ride?
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't like it. Yeah. I like the traditional stuff. And another good thing to be aware of is typically if your cats like to bury when they go potty, if they're not burying stuff or they're not scratching, it often means that they don't like that litter. They just don't like the way it feels on their paws.
Yeah, and I've also found diarrhea in a litter box and knew that my cat was sick.
Yep.
Because I'm scooping it every day. Or blood in their urine if you notice discoloration of the litter. So there's something to be said about paying attention to your cat's litter box habits and keeping track of their health. And now there's actually cat litters that will change color if there's a problem with their urine. So you can get really bougie with cat litter these
I wouldn't
days.
do that.
I can't afford it.
We've had people come in to make an appointment. They're like, the litter is this color and the cat's fine, and we've done all this testing, so I don't necessarily go for that.
Yeah, I have no experience
and
with it.
on the topic of litter boxes, and indoor cats getting fleas. Indoor cats can get intestinal parasites, especially if they're hunting mice and they're eating them. They can get roundworms. They can get tapeworms. A lot of people will come in and say, I'm not having a stool sample checked this year. Well, I'm like, maybe you can get away with that, but do you have mice? Oh, yeah, there's a ton they hunt. Well, probably has some roundworms.
Yeah. You're going to see some tapeworms coming out of there.
So worth getting that checked, too.
Yeah. If you ever look at your cat, and because they love to show everybody their buttholes, if you ever are looking at your cat's bum and there's something that looks like a grain of rice, especially if it's moving.
That's tapeworms.
Those are tapeworms.
And your cat either ate a mouse or ingested a flea.
Exactly. And they're disgusting. And like I remember I had a house sitting client back in the day when I was in vet school, and they had like a really, really dark colored floor and dark bedding. And I was house sitting, and I looked.
Gross.
And
it looks like dried pieces of. It looks like rice. Yeah.
They were everywhere, and every animal in the house had them.
How do people
she
not
had
notice
no clue.
that?
I don't know.
Gross.
I mean, I just turned 44, and my vision is finally starting to fail me. I'm not a super
I just went yesterday, and I got my first prescription for glasses.
Yeah, I got my readers. I'm sure I'm gonna have to bust them out in the show soon.
Pretty bummed.
I know. We're not superhumans, but we did pretty well. But I swear, there's some stuff now that I'm just like, oh, I didn't see it. That never used to be the case. I had such sharp vision. So just like with people saying, oh, my cat doesn't have fleas. My cat doesn't have worms. And it's like that little guy right there stuck to your cat's booty.
Well, people think they're always going to see the worms. And what we look for is the microscopic eggs. So you can't see them with the naked eye.
Yeah, absolutely not. So, Yeah, though that annual fecal sample is important, especially if your cat's like losing weight or their coat's getting kind of rough
Mm.
and they just don't seem themselves. They don't seem thrifty.
Yeah, good to check. And
Yeah.
another question I get all the time is I have multiple cats. How do I tell whose poop is who? What you can actually do is you could take a bright Crayola crayon and you could cut it up into little pieces or kind of shred it, and you could put it in your cat's wet food, like a neon green one. You can, because it's non-toxic,
Yeah.
because kids eat crayons.
Yeah.
And you could look in their poop if you're that dedicated. You could look and say, oh, that's got the green crayons, because people always ask me, well, I have multiple cats. I'm like, you can do that, or you can try to set up a camera, but that's
That's
an
pretty
interesting
amazing.
tip. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I've used it before, and people are like, "Woo!" Especially if they have some diarrhea and they don't know who it is. Feed them all
I
bits
bet,
of a
I bet
crayon.
edible glitter would work well
Oh,
too.
fancy, sparkly poop.
Sparkly cat turds.
Sparkly
I have a
poop.
Willow right here is a cat poop aficionado, and so she
Cat
might be
poop is a
down
delicacy for
dogs. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, whenever we come down to film in the basement studio, I have to scoop all the boxes before Willow's
Yeah,
down
or your
here.
dog comes and has
A little
litter all
snack.
over their face.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
gross. With our indoor cats, other things to think about: toys, playtime. You have so many options. We've really
Doing hunting
evolved.
stuff, too.
Yeah, 'cause they need to hunt.
Grabbing,
So,
those little things that you could twirl around and they grab those, or
yeah, hiding treats
throwing
and
stuff,
toys.
yeah.
There's toys that when they play with them and interact with them, like
Yeah.
treats will pop out.
There's something called the no bowl feeding system, and it's got these things that are made to feel like real mice, and you could put little kibbles in them, and they can kick them around, and it's like they're hunting for their food, like they would do in real life. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things you could do, but you need to do something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was shocked when I didn't get my first cat until I was in veterinary school because my mom was afraid they were going to give everybody toxoplasmosis. That's the pregnant ladies can't clean litter boxes disease, which, by the way, you're more likely to get toxoplasmosis from undercooked meat or gardening, where cats like to poop in the ground.
Yeah, unless you're eating out of your cat's litter box, pretty low risk.
Yeah, you're not washing your hands
Yeah.
if you're dirty and you're not
Yeah,
cleaning
yeah.
yourself in between getting it and interacting with
Yeah,
the cat's
don't clean the
box.
litter box and then
Yeah.
have pizza or something.
Yeah, and if people are still like getting rid of their cats when they get pregnant these days, you never deserve to have one. Don't do that. Talk to your doctor. But where was I going with that? Cats. Oh, toys.
Yes,
Laser lights.
yes.
So I remember when I first got my cat, I was like, these laser lights are amazing.
Mm.
You obviously never want to point it at your cat's face. You can do damage to their eye. But there was like this whole community of people who said that laser lights are cruel because they can never, quote unquote, catch them or win.
So, but what you could do, and I've heard that, and I actually heard that, I think I heard that from a behaviorist maybe,
Mhm.
but you could throw them a treat when they're getting that. So, or
Correct.
give them the toy. So make it be a reward. If you have a cat that you stop the laser and they're still looking everywhere, that you need to maybe reward them with something.
Yeah. Well, and I base it on the fact that like I had the one that's on a keychain,
Yeah.
and so when you grab it, it makes a very specific noise. My cats
They
love
knew?
it.
Mhm.
They'd come running, like they were like, "Yes, it's laser time." I had a really crazy cat sitter back in the day when I was in vet school in Colorado, and he called it Shiny Dot. And he used to send me videos of him playing
Nice.
with my cat in the laser light, and there'd be catnip everywhere. She's having a great
But
time.
even if you want, if you're being lazy, get your laser light while you're sitting on
Yeah,
the
sit on the
ca-
couch.
yeah.
Exactly. Or those toys that are on a long stick. Throw,
Yep.
I have 2 golden retrievers and 3 cats, and the best retriever in my entire house is my ginger cat. Like he will fetch anything, and my dog's worthless, absolutely
Me too.
useless. They also don't swim. I've got some busted retrievers, but yeah, my cats will actually go and chase stuff and hunt and play with toys, which is pretty cool. So you don't just get a cat and then like let it
They
live in
need
your house and
entertainment.
don't interact with it. Which I think this was really cool. Sweden just passed a law where you cannot leave a cat unattended for more than 24 hours. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, a cat's a better fit
They
for
go
my
away for a week.
lifestyle."
They have an automatic feeder.
Yeah, and they call it good.
You better hope you have mice in the house.
Yeah, they get bored and they can react behaviorally. They can get really upset. Because I happen to have an epileptic cat who has to get medicated 3 times a day. When I travel, I have a human in my house 3 times a day, checking on my cats, making sure they're healthy, putting eyes on them. Yeah, there's some people who recently, somebody I went to high school with who's an awesome cat mom, she was like, "What do you think about about cat sitters. Is that crazy? And
No, I
and
would
I was
have
like,
one. Yeah.
I have one every time I go anywhere. Like I've got a woman down the street who's like, she's worth her weight in gold because she can
Yeah.
pill a cat and she's right there. I couldn't live the life that I live and help as many families as I do without her.
Yeah.
But
And they
this
love
this girl
attention.
was
You
being
know, a lot of
bullied
cats.
by people telling her how crazy she was, and I was like, absolutely not. And now here we have a country like Sweden passing a law where you cannot. It's like leaving your kid in a car. Like you can't leave your cat unattended for 24 hours
Well,
without somebody
it's
popping
nice
in.
we're realizing that these animals are, special beings.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got clients who they have no human family, barely any friends. Their world is their cat,
Mm.
and it is their most devoted, dedicated companion.
A lot of older people too.
Yeah, yeah, and so it is a big deal, and I, the people who say when somebody loses a cat, oh, it's just a cat. I mean, don't do that ever. Don't ever give somebody a hard time about their grief or
Yeah.
downplay the importance of the human-animal bond in a relationship.
It's very important.
This whole just a cat attitude is why cats aren't going to the vet as frequently as they should. Why animal control can't even or doesn't respond to a lot of cat reports.
And
unless
that's
it's a
not their
cruelty
fault.
or-
They
yeah.
can't. Like they can't.
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
not enough time, which is why we need to invest in spay neuter. And I cannot stress this enough. It wasn't that long ago. I was out to drinks with a friend who's a recovering veterinary technician. She doesn't work in the field anymore. She's very happy
Like a lot
about
of
that.
them. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're sitting at the bar, and one of the bartenders, like, they're like, "Oh, you're in the vet world." And we're like, "Yeah." She had like just a domestic cat, and she was breeding it and producing kittens. And she like wanted to talk to us about it, and I was like, "You do realize that I'm really against pet overpopulation?"
yeah.
And I was like, "Is it like an exotic breed of cat?" And
No,
she's like, "No."
even so. Ugh.
And I was, she just
That's
no
you want to
education.
frustrate a veterinarian.
Yeah, I love my animal, and so I'm breeding them, and you
No.
have no experience. You're not working with a veterinarian. It's just like a run of the mill cat.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's why, cats can have multiple litters in a year, 4 or 6 cats per litter. So really important to get them spayed and neutered. And there's a lot of people that, it's tough to afford that. And there are low cost clinics. Unfortunately, they book up fast. And I kind of wanted to go over the difference of a low cost clinic versus what you get at your vet hospital.
very
And
important.
low cost clinics are great. They have a place. Typically, you want your young, healthy cat there because they're not doing things like placing an IV catheter if there's an emergency. They
Doing
have
blood work.
Yeah, they're not doing blood work. They have less staff. That's great. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but people will come and say, well, why are you so much more expensive? Well, you kind of get the bells and whistles. You
Yeah.
get an IV catheter place. You have the option of doing lab work. Your pet is hooked up to everything they would hook up a person to while they're under anesthesia.
It is comparable to human medicine.
And you cannot pay what you pay at a low-cost clinic and get that kind of
They're
attention.
working on donations.
Yeah, and low-cost clinics are wonderful. I wish there was more of them.
Yeah.
But you have to keep in mind that that's what the cost difference is.
Yeah, and so there were some amazing spay neuter clinics in this region, and one of them in particular, who was doing about 50 spay neuters a day, got evicted. And part of why they had some problems is there were people who were purchasing very expensive animals, driving fancy cars, utilizing low-cost services. I have a
Save it
problem
for
with
somebody
this.
else. If you can, please save it
Yeah.
for other people.
Yeah.
Everyone wants something cheaper, but if you can afford it, leave those spaces for people who really need it.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're buying purebred animals and you're planning vacations and you drive new cars, you should not be taking services away from somebody
Right.
who is desperately in need. This pet overpopulation cycle is never going to be broken if people are taking advantage. And so, yeah, do the right thing.
Yeah,
And don't
it's hard.
also, if you are going to utilize a low cost service, don't expect gold standard of care.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean they're bad. They're
No.
wonderful.
No, they're doing the
But-
best they can
Yeah.
with practically no resources.
Right. And,
and-
I love those people. I give them so much credit,
Yeah,
the hard work
absolutely.
that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you like cats like we do, there's a lot more to it than just the cat distribution system and bringing them into your home. They should have veterinary care. There's a lot that you should be doing at home to interact with them and treat them like a part of your family. And then,
Absolutely.
they have needs too.
big needs sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me
You're
today,
welcome.
talking about cats.
Everything cat.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for having me again.
Of course, and I hope you do find your big FIV positive Tom that
I
is
will.
not going to pee all over your house
I will
and your boyfriend.
take home
will
some
allow.
decrepit animal. I got room for one more.
Yeah, I don't. I'm full up. I can't fit any more cats in this lease. But thank you all again for joining us today on this episode of Vet It Out. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. It does not cost a penny. Make sure you actually hit subscribe. And then once we get rolling and we actually can start getting monetized, we do want to fund spay-neuter programs and do something about the pet overpopulation issue. Thanks again for watching. Hey folks, Dr. Leah here. Thanks for watching my podcast, Vet It Out. For more content about everything animal, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell to have the latest updates.